You should really use more color. I was discussing my last video with a friend of mine, and he told me I should go more in depth about people blowing smoke up your ass. It's a rampant problem when you're working on creative projects, and nothing's more annoying than wanting to improve, but not knowing where to start. Sometimes it's simple, but other times you want someone else to look at the problem. Sometimes a fresh perspective can shed light in an area you weren't paying attention to, but other times you'll get an opinion that completely baffles you. You should give this character cancer. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with your average commenter? I wouldn't even refer to them as a critic. There was no critical thought behind the words spewed forth by this paint-huffing glue eater. This leads me to my first point. What kind of criticism is valid? No, seriously. What critique is truly valid? Do you look at their credentials? Like what other projects they've worked on? It could be a good place to look, but that doesn't always make them a good source. They could have a completely different vision and idea of your work. A good way to tell if it's valid criticism is to look at the words being used. If you start hearing things like, yeah, it's okay, you know there's something wrong. If they were engaged with the work, they'd be able to point to something and say, hey, I like that, or I don't like that. It would show that they're paying attention to what you're doing and offering an informed opinion. Hell, sometimes those questions can make you rethink a whole character and what their goals are. So, when is critique needed? Usually the most important part of improvement comes from valid criticism. Either one's about execution or suggestions on how to improve small things. It's important to understand you're always going to be criticized, from birth till death. And I know nothing knocks the wind out of your sails like being told you're shit by someone who writes at a 3rd grade reading level. But that's the way of the internet. Those who can't, teach, or at least try to. It's important to remember your place in the pecking order. Read through the feedback and you can put it into one of 3 categories. Number 1 is going to be valid criticism from a fellow creator. So you know someone who's going to be honest with you and tell you if something's wrong. The second box is going to be your family and close friends who might be willing to read your work and give you some small feedback, but you should take everything they say with a grain of salt. And number 3 is the worst one. This is criticism from a collective of people who are not artists and not creators. They merely seek to bring you down because they have nothing better to do. Take comments like that and disregard them immediately. But seriously, where can you find good people to criticize your work? From my experience, nowhere. There isn't a magic group of shamans who will bestow a style upon you. It's up to you to criticize yourself and make important decisions about your own work and what message you want to put out there. I've briefly talked about self-criticism and how to give yourself a fair review, but I have a few main ones to mention. Number 1, look at what you did correctly. You'll never improve if you believe your work is trash or worthless. Number 2, make art a habit. You don't see an athlete training once every 3 months. It doesn't need to be daily, but it should be a habit. And number 3, just keep yourself creative. It helps to vary your hobbies. We aren't all purpose-built machines. If you can learn new skills, and not just TikTok skills, I mean practicing different crafts that will keep your brain moving and healthy. You won't be great at everything, but you could definitely be a master of more than one. Trying new things can give you perspective and insight into different areas of life that can offer greater introspection into your art, thus improving it. Now, who should I take critique from? One of the first things to think about is what their relation to you and your work is. If it's a family member, they usually have a vested interest in keeping you happy. Even if they don't like the work, they probably wouldn't tell you. It would be considered rude to tell a family member that you hate their art. So, who else can we think of? Maybe a Reddit full of neurotic assholes? Yeah, that'll definitely help you improve. Especially getting yelled at for not knowing what a color mask is or where to even look. Such a great place. But seriously, it's a big ask to get someone to read through a script and provide notes. It's a big ask to have someone look over your art and offer good advice. It's really up to you to find a friend who you can trust to share work with, and in return, you can give them that same courtesy. You won't always find the right person to help you improve, but you can always show it to a few people and get a group opinion. Kind of like a focus group, but a little less corporate. But why? You have to know why you're seeking criticism. Is it because you genuinely want to improve, or is it because you want validation? It's important to know what you're looking for when you ask someone to look at your work, because sometimes you're not going to get a response you like. You might even get something that shatters your entire body of work. But it's just the ass of it. You have to know. You should find ways to positively criticize your own work without falling into the negative trapping. It's a long and difficult process, and at the end of the day, it's about your work and how far you want to push it. Just make sure you're getting it from a person you trust not to blow smoke up your ass, and ensure it's going to help push you forward as a creator. In conclusion, accept some criticism and eat a cinder block.